and Lex.
Two imperfect six-figure business coaches, co-founders, and friends who decided to combine our superpowers to bring to market something we wish we had when we entered the world of coaching.
A real, non-BS, intimate, and fun community built with integrity, intention, and a few glasses of wine.
In this podcast, we get real.
Real about life,
business,
relationships,
and what it really takes to find your version of success in the world of coaching. Are you ready, Lex?
I'm set, Em.
Let's coach. Lex, how did it take us this long to get a podcast?
I'm actually not sure. In the back of my mind, I think we always needed one, or I knew that, but was procrastinating probably just a little bit.
Why? Was it because we both have our own podcasts and our own separate businesses and Ready, Set, Coach?
I was going to say multiple businesses, podcasts, all the things, babies.
Yeah, things that keep us entertained. But I'm so happy that we're doing this. Basically, this is going to be like a glimpse into our candid conversations that we have with one another about all things life and business and relationships. And you'll probably hear about our babies. You'll probably also hear our babies in the background at times. So, if you are into games, you can take a sip of your latte or midday margarita if that's your vibe every time you hear a baby.
Drinking game. Yeah, literally as we speak, my daughter Ashlyn is on the floor behind us. We're playing the binky game, which means she spits it out. I put it back in. So if you hear little grunts, yep, there was one right there. Don't mind it.
I love it. I think it's actually it's an oblique workout, I've heard, which is wonderful to put things forth. So anyways, I just want to talk, this is our first podcast on our new podcast together, but we want to go way back and tell you guys the story about how Lex and I met. It's funny to think, I say, gosh, I hate that word so much when I say, but it's one of those things where when I started my other company, Degrees Society, I never wanted a co-founder. And yet here we are, Lex, we're co-founders. I think you're pretty much the same too, right? You didn't want a co-founder.
Not at all. I didn't want a team or a co-founder. I wanted it to be me, myself, and I.
Yeah, I didn't want anyone to be accountable to. I didn't want to have anyone to disappoint. And yet when Lex and I met one another, it's funny because I wonder if when we had met, if some like future version of ourselves had floated down and said, you two are going to be fated to be co-founders down the line, if we would have laughed it off or envisioned it.
I know it is, because that was pre-pandemic. I mean, different world, pre-momhood, you were pretty newly married too, right? Within a year.
Yeah, like months, basically. I was so excited for 2022 because 2020 as well, not 2022. In that was going to be my year of travel. Like I think I had a trip booked every single month, and I had to cancel so many trips and so many events when the pandemic happened.
And I had just become I'm like reminding myself as we rewind time, I had just launched my first company, the THEPRBAR Inc. And actually the conference we met at was my very first in-person conference. And I was planning to go to Portugal later that year. So it's a different world.
Wow. I didn't realize you had just launched. Like, when was your official launch?
January of 2020.
What?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, in a weird way, I feel like the pandemic worked in your favor because you were able to touch people that you probably never would have gone in front of.
100%. We're kind of skirting around all these backstories. Emily, why don't you start by just telling everyone a little bit about your backstory? Tell them about 6 Degrees. How did you even get to the point of us meeting?
Oh, once upon a time. I'm gonna go way back. I grew up in Connecticut. Like my identity, my formation of life was in Connecticut. And after Connecticut, I was always curious about like Latin American cultures. So even in high school, I lived in Costa Rica with a family for 3 weeks. I lived in Mexico for 2 weeks with a family. And then I went to college in the Midwest in Ohio at a college called Denison. But like my whole intention going to college and finding a college was their study abroad program. So I ended up studying abroad in Madrid, and I double majored in communications and Spanish. When I graduated college, it was 2009, not 2009. I'm used to saying 20 now, 2009. And I looked around at the job market and it looked very treacherous at that moment in time. So I ended up deciding to move to a different country. So people had told me that Argentina was most similar to Europe and it had the most European vibes to it. So without really knowing anyone, I told everyone and their mom that I was moving to Argentina at the end of the summer. So everyone who did know someone in Argentina connected me to that person. So I moved to Argentina with the intention to teach English as a foreign language. I ended up getting introduced to entrepreneurship. And I started planning trips for Americans coming down to Argentina, as well as doing in-person wine tastings for limited production Argentine wines. And it was truly like my first exposure to entrepreneurs and people taking risks that weren't the traditional consulting or banking or marketing jobs that I'd heard of. And after 9 months in Argentina, I was ready to come back to the States and like figure out what my life would look like. And I ended up getting a role through networking in Argentina in fashion at Ralph Lauren, doing special events and marketing. The funny thing was it was called retail marketing assistant. And I was like literally Googling what is a retail marketing assistant on the way to the interview, because I had no idea what that meant. I had no idea what retail marketing was. And that was my exposure and my introduction to fashion. So I built my career in New York City in fashion, doing special events and marketing. And one of my biggest lessons that I just want to point out is I stayed in contact with all of these people, including vendors and, cross partners that we partnered with, or organizations we partnered with. And it was really pivotal for down the line. And when I was at a company called Tory Burch, I started my other business, Degrees Society, as a side hustle with this desire to bring people together and to connect fully. And what we do is we handpick who you meet while networking. So that became my side hustle that ultimately became my full-time hustle at the end of 2015. And in 2016, I grew Degrees Society across 10 markets in the United States. And Peggy kind of backflipped into coaching. People started asking me, like, how are you getting these amazing vendors and venues to partner with? And how are you finding these people to attend your events? So I started coaching people and helping them explore creating their own communities and events and doing what I did. And then the pandemic happened in 2020. And back to our story, where our stories intercept one another. My words are just, it's early, guys. Intercept one another. But during the pandemic, I pivoted all of my events virtual with 6 Degrees, launched a mastermind, started a podcast, and then I met Lex. And well, I'll save that part of the story till Lex tells hers.
Yes. I actually, we probably talk every single day. We do talk every single
We
day.
do.
And I did not know you double majored in Spanish and communications. How did I not know that?
Oh, we should do a quiz show on us.
I
Like,
know.
what do you know?
Learn something new every day. Okay, my backstory. Let's go to college. Actually, let's go to my 5th grade yearbook. If you opened it, you would see that I wanted to be an Oscar award-winning actress in Hollywood. It literally says that, with little Lexie with bangs and a bob. That dream, like I call it, got more realistic by college, and I thought I wanted to go into broadcast journalism. So I started double majoring in PR and broadcast journalism. I threw PR on there just because it seemed like a natural fit. And I was going down that lane hard. I was on intern for CBS. I was the president of the National Broadcasting Society. I did the Duck TV. I went to University of Oregon. Shout out, go Ducks.
Wait, you interned for CBS?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Okay, well,
Yeah,
I'm gonna morning show. Okay, I'm gonna put a pin in that and come back to that later.
Come back in that. Yeah. I did, and there's a whole nother story there. We'll save that for another day. Anyways, I was on the street in New York City. So
I lived in New York City?
No. So I my God. I'm like, how many new things can I tell you about myself? No, I was at a convention in New York City my freshman year. And on the streets in New York, there was a man and his son wearing my collegiate logos. So I lived in Eugene, Oregon, which is on the other side of the country. So very small world to see someone wearing Duck gear. Went up to him. He ended up owning a PR firm with offices in San Francisco, New York, and a satellite office in Eugene, Oregon, which is incredibly random. So I set up an informational interview when I got back. Long story long, that led to my very first job in PR in undergrad, which was very lucky of me. And once I started working in PR and I had a taste of both PR and journalism, I actually switched my focus from journalism to PR. Fast forward, I actually too lived abroad. I lived in Italy for 6 months my senior year, and then I moved to Los Angeles right after college, and I worked for a PR firm most notably known for the show Shark Tank. God, I have so many mini stories. I'll try to keep this concise. So I was working in PR agencies, became a senior account director by the age of 22, was recruited to go in-house for a hospitality group to become a director of PR and marketing. There's a reason I'm telling all these titles in a moment. Then became a VP of PR marketing and business development for the fastest growing telecom in America. All this to say, I was having a really accelerated, successful career path on paper at a young age. And it culminated into, it was either a Tuesday or Wednesday. In my office, I collapsed and had to be carried out in a makeshift stretcher to the hospital because my body couldn't hang with the level that I was performing at. And where Emily kind of more organically found her way into coaching, I had this big health moment that made me have to rethink life and career. And I was actually listening to a podcast when I learned about coaching, and even the concept of it was really, really attracted to the business model. And again, long story long, how many times am I going to say that? Reverse engineered my way into my first company, the THEPRBAR Inc., which I started the brand in 2019, but made a cold turkey decision to put in 6 months notice at my job and go full time in January of 2020, and was hitting the ground hard, hence went to this conference in Universal City, California, which is where I met the one and only Emily Merrell. Immediately had a girl crush on her. Thought you were gorgeous. I still think you're gorgeous, by the way.
Really?
I do.
Likewise. I want to say at this conference, there was like a lineup. You could ask this coach questions. And I was like, I'm not brave enough to ask this person questions, / I have no desire to ask a question of this woman. And I saw Lex line up and I was like, who is this like brave gal who is like asking questions? And then someone said to me, they're like, oh, have you met the PR bar? And I was thinking like, this must be a space in Los Angeles too. I truly thought you had a space. And so I beeline towards you. I don't know if you remember, I like cornered you in the hallway.
I do.
And I was like, hi, I'm Emily. I hear you host events. That's what I thought you had, a space, the PR bar, where I could host events in Los Angeles.
I always say maybe someday, guys, and we should probably, so Emily told you about Degrees Society. The PR bar is all about puns, but really it was a PR coaching firm. So all my services to this day are punny, like Pop His Clink and Wine Club. So no, there is not a physical location. It's just branded in that way. That's really funny. Yeah, no, we met. And the one main memory I have of you, besides, by the way, on a squirrel note, that conference slightly traumatized me. For different reasons. We weren't vibing with
the coach.
Yeah. But I remember you telling me your wedding story.
Oh yeah.
How many random miscellaneous stories can we throw into this one short episode? You have to real quick tell your wedding story, because to me it was such a memorable thing. And now I'm putting you on the spot. Go.
How did I tell you the wedding story? Like, I wonder how I introduced myself and then told you a wedding story all in one moment.
It was at the cocktail hour thing.
Oh, okay. Well, that hopefully it made more sense in like the placeholder. I wasn't just spewing random stories at you, but both could be possible.
You're way better at visuals than me, so why don't you kick this off?
Okay. So guys, close your eyes, take a deep breath. Now imagine that you're living on an island, sipping spicy margaritas, in between coaching calls, effortlessly signing 10K months.
Well, doesn't that sound like every other Facebook and Instagram ad you've seen from coaches? The reality for most new coaches, you find yourself spending countless hours searching for your ideal clients, doing all the free trainings, and working tirelessly as you attempt to differentiate yourself in a saturated market.
Way to be a buzzkill, Lex. But yes, that's way more accurate. However, what if
What?
What if the magic formula to building a profitable and sustainable coaching business didn't have to be so complicated? What if attaining your version of a dream life didn't have to remain on your faraway someday list? What if someone took the time to sift through all the crap that's out there and finally created a program built specifically and only for well-intentioned and qualified coaches and coaches to be just like you?
Hey, we did that.
That's what I'm getting at, Lex.
It's time for you guys to meet Em and I's business baby, Ready, Set, Coach.
It's a turnkey program built by coaches for coaches that focuses on teaching coaches how to build a profitable business that supports their lifestyle.
Learn more at readysetcoachprogram.com.
Now enrolling. So my wedding story, just because it's fun to tell, it was 2019 and it was during the Kincaid fires in Sonoma, California. And fun fact, we had an apartment fire earlier that year in May of 2019. And then in October of 2019 is when we got married. And I remember my mom saying, like, maybe we should buy wedding insurance just because I know there's been fires up here around the fall. And luckily she did, because 30 minutes before our wedding ceremony, my 7-month pregnant wedding planner comes up to me and says, the fire marshal's here. He is urging us to evacuate. It's not a mandatory evacuation at this moment in time, but it will be shortly. So fortunately, one of my best friends grew up in St. Helena, which is a town about 15 minutes away. And her mom had graciously extended an invite to her house and said, if anything happens, you are more than welcome to use our house for your wedding. Funny thing is she has multiple properties. So I think she truly meant her other property where her son lives. And her son wasn't comfortable with having us all at this like big, expansive property. So her mom said, screw this, you're coming to my house, this 800 square foot house in downtown St. Helena, which had a little backyard, like a little patio area. And unbeknownst to us, she had also owned the property that was undeveloped behind her house. And my photographer found it out, and she urged everyone to set the ceremony up there. So every participant in the wedding started knocking on neighbors' doors and asking for chairs and benches and set up a whole wedding ceremony. No one would let me help, which as a former event planner was torture. I was just given lots of tequila and told to breathe on and off. And it ended up just being so magical because all of our vendors pulled through. Well, it was supposed to be a sit-down dinner. It ended up as a buffet. Everyone was on the dance floor. We had the bands, we had a horn section. There's a picture of me eating, we did tacos as our wedding food, obviously, which is very fitting for us. There's a picture of me eating tacos on the stairs and like everyone around me. And it was, if anything, more special. The way that it ended up happening, it was traumatizing, but it was special. And then that night, the power had gone out again. I don't think I told you this, Lex. The power went out in the town and the fires kept moving. So people had everyone had been staying on property at our venue. So they had to get one new location, and then they had to get another location, and were evacuated in the middle of the night. And the winds were up to like 90 miles an hour. And so we ended up doing like a brunch in San Francisco at our 867 square foot apartment. We had like as many people as we could.
67. Got to add that in there.
Yeah. That really makes a difference.
It does. Price wise, I'm sure.
Yeah. So that was fun. Once we actually were on the way to the honeymoon, I was like, are you sure? Are we really going? Are we going to be kidnapped? But yeah, that was my wedding.
And didn't you get on the news for this?
Oh yeah. Oh, okay. So you'll appreciate this. I see these moments, like you see these, I think this is actually like a good learning, teachable, reframing moment. So yeah, it effing sucked. Like I didn't have the wedding of my dreams or that I envisioned. It ended up being better, but I was like, this is such a beautiful story. Like I am someone who's so big about community and the fact that my community built my wedding, I need to write about this. So the next night, I literally just drafted like this very long post about the wedding, posted it on social media, and it got reshared a lot, a lot. And it got reshared to other Instagram accounts. And then I went through Facebook Messenger and I just started DMing like NBC, CBS, all of the local news anchors until we were on our honeymoon in Tahiti. And I got a call being like, hi, this is whatever from NBC. We got your story. We would love to interview you for this story. And it was so frustrating, Lex, because there was this other couple from Chicago that got these pictures taken of them with like gas masks on, and that went viral. And I was like, no, we should go viral. Like our story is better than their story. But anyways, yeah, so we got an interview from Tahiti. My husband was like, what are you making me do? Who are you? Who did I marry? But it was in a weird way, it was like satisfying for me that at least it got recognized.
Well, and then the PR in me was salivating out the story as I was doing it.
Where were you?
And sorry to just throw one more wrench. I don't know if you remember this, but that night, ironically, a huge transformer blew up outside of the hotel conference and it completely blacked out the entire hotel.
Yes, I remember.
Yes.
I remember. I was stuck in the garage.
Yes.
You were too. Oh, I saw CJ. He picked you up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I missed him. Okay, guys. I would apologize for all these squirrels, but you better get used to it if you're going to be listening to the show.
This is how our brain works. Basically, we're very organized and then also have 1,000 stories to tell.
Yes. So you'll slowly but surely get to know us. And that kind of segues perfectly. So Emily and I met at this conference and we had a virtual friendship of sorts. Emily was trying to get me to come to a 6 Degrees Society event. I live in Ventura, California, which is about an hour north of Los Angeles without traffic. And so for me to go into the city for an event is a big commitment to, bear the traffic. So when the pandemic hit, I actually was able to go to 6 Degrees events because they became virtual. And anyway, so fast forward, we're friends, yada, yada, yada. This thing kept happening. And this thing was, so this is my perspective, talking to someone, a client lead for the PR bar coaching business. And there's one person in particular I'm thinking about. And I got an email saying, I just want to let you know, I'm vetting you and Emily Merrell. And I was like, oh. And she's like, tell me why I should hire you over Emily. I was like, oh. Awkward. I remember I sent a screenshot to you and I'm like, I don't remember what I said to the girl, like, Emily's amazing. I can't speak to what she does, but here's what I do.
I'm pretty sure she sent the same email to me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know she was vetting one other person as well. And I was like, okay, why are you telling me this? Like, I feel like it was the longest sale thing that all of us had ever gone through. We were like, just shit or get off the pot.
Just pick one. So basically this client was vetting us both and it happened a couple other times. And then there also was this cadence where someone would work with Emily and then maybe they'd come to me or vice versa. And there could have been a competitive nature. I think that this could have gone a really different route. Totally. And I give Em full credit, but she reaches out to me and she says, what do you think about doing something together? So here, you tell this.
No, you nailed it. And it was interesting too, because it was also the time when people were starting group programs. And I loved the idea of creating a group, but I was so overwhelmed with the actual like tactical element of creating a group. I was like, what do I have to teach? I have nothing to teach people. All the imposter syndrome got in my head. And so I said to Lex, I was like, I think we should create something together, but I think it should be a group. I think it should be something that we could ultimately grow and scale. And also like, if you have a baby or I have a baby or like you need to step out for a session, like there'll always be someone to run the things. And so it was Lex who came to me and she was like, you know what we should do? We should create something that is not competitive with our already existing businesses. I think we should focus primarily on coaching. And so with that, that's how Ready, Set, Coach. And that was all you, Lex. You did such a great job. Literally, like we had this conversation and the next day she's like, presenting mood boards with the colors and the logo. And she's like, I'm thinking this logo and like these color palettes. And what do you think about this as a tagline? And I'm like, oh my God, it's Christmas Day.
Psychopath. I mean, this podcast, we texted you last Thursday and it's Monday or something, and now we're doing it full thing.
It'll get launched on Friday, probably.
Probably. Yeah. So we decided to niche on coaches, and we landed with that because we both had independently built successful coaching businesses and spent a lot of money and did a lot of things wrong and had a lot to offer about how to not just build a business in the coaching space, but do one sustainably and in a way that supports your lifestyle. So that's something you will learn about us quickly, is we really are team work to live, not live to work. We're all about, the whole point of this career is to support this greater thing called life and our families. And so anyways, we got to busy doing all the nuts and bolts. And then I get a text from Emily.
And what do I say?
Like she was pregnant.
Oh, okay. I'm like, what
details? So we were building this business baby, and Emily then had a real baby in her stomach, and
I was like, what did I say? Oh, yeah, I was scared. I wasn't scared. I was more anxious about like, oh no, we just went down this connection path. Like we're about to start a business. How are we going to manage building and scaling a business with like the delivery of my child and whatnot. And fun fact, my son came 3 weeks early, which I'm not like a 3 weeks early kind of human. I definitely thought he would be 2 weeks late. And he arrived, I think we graduated our group on Thursday. He came on Sunday.
Yeah, it was perfection. We launched basically this ideated in the fall of 2020. We launched our first cohort in the summer/spring of 2021. Jackson was born 3 days after we graduated. But if we backpedal a little bit, in August of that year, I found out I was pregnant.
I know, that was the best text. I was in an art museum and I get like a text of, I think, 4 pregnancy tests being like, is this thing on? Like, is this working? Does this mean I'm pregnant?
I was pregnant. So now we have business baby. Emily was literally giving birth any second. Then I was pregnant. We actually, ironically, had another gal pregnant in our cohort who gave birth 2 weeks after me. And we're like, there's something in the water here at Ready, Set, Coach.
Not a prerequisite. You don't have to be pregnant to join our program or want to be pregnant. But it was interesting because I think there was also that like, oh no, now you're going to be delivering. Like, what's the timing going to be? I want to take a maternity leave. You want to take a maternity leave. And so there was definitely compromise that happened, but I'm really grateful, like having had a partner and also been able to take a maternity leave. Like Lex was so supportive during the maternity leave. And I was able to enjoy being a mom and enjoy those first few months. And Lex, of course, delivers during our second cohort, which I'm curious about your experience. What did you feel like that was like?
Yeah, well, I think, our pregnancies were really a moment for practicing what we're preaching, right? Like the whole concept of Ready, Set, Coach was to teach other people how to build these businesses to support their lifestyle. And here was one of the biggest life transitions facing us. And I felt so supported. Guys, I got a text message, I don't know, a few days after giving birth, and Emily had the whole cohort record a video for me saying, Lexie, congratulations. Oh my God. Like all the girls in our cohort, they sent me flowers. Of course, I'm very postpartum, very hormonal, no sleep, bawl my eyes out. And it was really beautiful to not only feel supported by Emily, but also supported by all of our coaches in the program. Just the fact that we're all in this to support our lifestyles, right? There's something beautiful about that.
Yeah. And I think that's a really important thing to think about too, for everyone, is like, as you're building your business, what is it that you want your life to look like? Do you want to be able to play with your kid every day and work from home, or, be a part of the child's upbringing? Or maybe you're a surfer and you want to catch those morning waves. And so you want to plan your day accordingly, and a corporate job is not the right job for you. Lex, I thought you were going to talk about when I gave you a surprise baby shower.
Oh my God.
Your
Yes.
worst nightmare.
Okay. Another squirrel story. So I did not want a Emily to host me a baby shower. I hosted her one. It was fun. It was great. I just didn't want one. She offered. I was like, no. She offered again. I said no again. So 99% of our meetings I show up to with like smeared makeup, hair in a bun, still in my PJs, because that's just the life I live now. So I hop onto one of our team meetings in literally PJs, messiest hair of my life. And there's a room full of people staring back at me at Zoom. And my first instinct was like, crap, like, do we have a coaching call right now? And then all of a sudden they're like, surprise. And I was in my surprise virtual baby shower looking like a hot mess. I don't think I've ever been more surprised in my life. I couldn't even formulate words. And that was
amazing.
Independent of the pregnancy brain at that moment.
I'm so
it was
cruel.
Wonderful. It just was so, oh man, I look actually I'm glad this isn't a video podcast because
this is what we're showing up to. We're wearing casual wear and that's the facts, and you can too with this.
Yes. So basically, guys, here's where we're at, right? We are now recording this podcast. It is summer of 2022. We're already enrolling our third cohort. We have graduated 2 cohorts. We officially made this baby a real business registered in the state of Colorado at the end of last year. And we're in this. And I would say, Em, and I won't speak for you, I thought I knew a lot about the coaching industry when we started it, but now that we are literally coaching coaches, I'm learning so much more. And that's, why we want to do this podcast. We want to talk about life and all things coaching and what we've learned from each other, for ourselves, from the other coaches we have the privilege to work with, everything from mindset to tactical things to life that happens in between.
And I also think it'll be interesting for you to hear, like Lexie and I will share how we hired our first coaches, what drew us to them. And then also it's funny because I'll send Lexie things and she'll send me things about coaches and I'll be like, this person really resonates with me. And she's like, oh, she doesn't do it for me, but then vice versa. And so it's interesting also as you think about building your own coaching practice or hiring your own coach, and it could be for personal or professional things, but what is it that makes you gravitate to someone? Is it the way they speak? Is it the content they give you? Is it the fact that they are super successful seeming and drive a Bentley and their hair is always perfect? Like whatever those things are, we'll talk and we'll dissect that a little bit further.
Yeah. And in between, you're also gonna, learn more about us. And I don't think did we bring up who your official son is? And did we introduce Jackson? Let's introduce the formalities. Okay.
You mentioned, yeah. So I'm calling in. I'm so used to saying this. I live in Denver, Colorado. I moved after living in New York City, I met my husband, fun fact, at a bachelorette party, which we can dive into later, and met him in New Orleans. He lived in San Francisco and I ended up doing long distance for 1.5 years and then ultimately moving out to San Francisco to be with him. And then once we had Jackson in October of 2021, we were really outgrowing our 2-bedroom apartment. And my sister had recently moved to Denver and was like subliminally messaging me every single day that I must move to Denver. So ultimately we ended up finding a house and we settled in Denver. We're 1.5 miles away from her and 1.5 miles from my best friend and 2 miles from my mom, who ended up being convinced to move here as well. So we currently live in Denver.
So Emily is the founder of 6 Degrees Society. She's a business coach. She's the co-founder of Ready, Set, Coach program. She is the host of the 6th Degree podcast and now Ready, Set, Coach podcast. Mama, so many other things, an amazing human being.
Wow, this is awesome. Can I keep you in my back pocket all day long as I go into a meeting? Hold on one second. Let me pull this out, this recording.
Intros from now on.
I love it. You're hired. You're hired. And Lexie lives in Ventura, California. She is the mom to Ashlyn, who is 2 months and counting, almost 3 months.
Yeah, she'll be 3 months. Oh my God, in 9 days. Yeah.
Almost 3 months.